banks of the River Tyne. Take me home to the place that I call mine. It's a place I love best, 'cause it's better than the rest. Take me home to the banks of the River Tyne. There's lights that burn so brightly, in the northeast sky they shine. From a place that Geordies worship, where legends wear number 9. You can travel right round the world, even meet the Pope in Rome. But nothing beats the feeling of when you come back here to home. No matter how life changes, we'll never be far apart. The northeast always home, and it's always in your heart. Take me home to the banks of the River Tyne. Take me home to the place that I call mine.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome to It's All Black and White TV, and tonight it's the European Tour. I've got fans from Brighton, Aston Villa, Liverpool, and I'm waiting for Mr. Man City to come in. But unfortunately, no Arsenal or Man U fans. They're all busy this week, so but we'll do our show with them two fans at some later point. But before we get into the show and any comments in the chat, do remember, if you do like what you see, then please smash a like. It does help the channel up the search results. Also, if you're brand new to the channel, then hit the subscribe. Free to do so, helps the channel grow. And the bell notification tells you when I'm live, have a pre-record, or any upcoming shows. Last night I hit 600 subscribers, so not bad after only going for 7 months. And also, if you do want to make a donation, there's a link in the chat. Just click the link and follow the instructions. Just got a couple of comments in here. Andrew says, good evening. Good evening to you, Andrew. Hope you're well, mate. Brush, Man United fan, like, share and sub. Thank you very much indeed, my friend. And Sefton says, evening all. Good evening to you, Sefton, as well. I hope you're well. And he says, looks like Celebrity Squares. Yeah, absolutely. So I'm going to come to you first, Martin. Aston Villa. Obviously, you finished 7th place. I mean, before I come to you, actually, we may have another team in the Europa League next season, because if West Ham win the Conference League, they'll go in the Europa League for next season. So, we could have another team from the UK representing us in the Europa League. You, Martin, I mean, tell us about your season at Villa this season. I mean, you start off with Gerrard. You were just above the relegation zone. You got rid of Gerrard. Then you came to us. We thumped you 4-0 at St James's. But then Emery come in the week after. I mean, yeah, just let us know about you. Tell us about your season. Sum it up.
Well, before Emery came in, trying to get Aston Villa to play football was like getting blood from a rock. Just wasn't going to happen. But it was just horrendous football. I remember first game I went to this season was away at Crystal Palace. I went with a few lads from the Eagle-Eyed Football channel. And I was sitting in the home end and just seeing how poor we were, I was like, oh my God, it's going to be another one. And then when Gerrard was inevitably sacked after the Fulham game, I'll be straight and honest, Emery wasn't the first person on my list. He wasn't even on my list because I just didn't think he'd be someone that we could get because he was still contracted to Villarreal, but his release clause was £5 million. So the Villa owner saw that as a no-brainer, got him in, and first game against Manchester United, 1-3-1, went on a good run from there and finished in 7th. I know a lot of the Wolves fans were celebrating, thinking we stopped Villa getting into Europe, and look at us now. And, just like Rowley, the voice of reason there, drinking his beer, that's what the Wolves fans were actually doing. We stopped Villa getting Europe. And, when we drew with Liverpool 1-1 and Tottenham lost to Brentford, I thought, yeah, that's it. I think we have it, because Brighton, with all due respect to Brighton, they are a very good side. They deserve their place in the Europa League. But when they put the lineup out, I just went, yeah, that's they're resting players, so it gave us a great opportunity to go get the 3 points, and inevitably that's what we done. Very nervy when Tottenham scored in the first minute, but overall we're just over the moon. I mean, we're just looking at Unai Emery like he's God, and hopefully, when he gets the players he wants in, and gets a good pre-season under his belt and brings a proper philosophy into the team. Don't tell me the sky's the limit when there's footsteps on the moon.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, the thing is, he's done well for you, Emery. I mean, if you remember back last season when we sacked Steve Bruce, we saw the domino effect. Villa and Norwich sacked their managers. You've got Gerrard. Norwich ended up with your ex-manager Smith, and we brought in Eddie Howe. And at the time, a lot of people said, Eddie Howe to Newcastle, that's a strange one. Even Martin Samuels coming out and saying, Howe to Newcastle. Newcastle's missed out on Gerrard here. Why have they gone for Eddie Howe? But last season, it proved why I went for Eddie Howe, because he kept us in the Premier League and kept us up quite comfortably in the end, considering we hadn't won a Premier League game for 14 games. So it was quite a strange one last season. But yeah, no, I mean, it's done really well for you. And to get to this, I mean, it's absolutely fantastic, isn't it? Considering where you were when he came through the door. I mean, that Europa Conference League, it's probably one of the most winnable cups you can get into. I mean, last season West Ham were unlucky not to get the final. Rangers got the final and only just lost it. West Ham could go on and beat Fiorentina. Who knows? Because, Fiorentina aren't the great Fiorentina they used to be years ago in Serie A. And you hear Chelsea Football Club saying, they didn't want to qualify for the Conference League. But as a Villa fan, I bet you're over the moon of being in the Conference League.
Yeah, absolutely. Not been in European football for 13, 14 years. And, funny enough, I actually saved my work holidays just on purpose on the hopeful chance that Villa get Europe so I can go on a good few away days to, whether them being Armenia, Czechoslovakia, wherever it is, I don't care, I'm going. And when we got it, I was over the moon. Just European football back at Villa Park, like European nights under the lights. It's exactly what Aston Villa need, for the size of our club. It's well needed, and that comes down to the owners and getting a good proper appointment in Unai Emery. Because they had a plan when they bought the club, when Tony Xia took over, and that was a colossal mess. And when the lads bought the club over, they said they're going to put the money where their mouth is. They're going to get Villa into Europe within 5 or 6 years. 5 years later, now that's happened. So we're on the right path, and long may it continue.
Yeah, I mean, Matey wins saying evening to myself, Rolly, and all the guests. He says this is your starter for 10. If Hamas get into Europe, you'll have to get Lawless on and watch the sparks fly. But he says, congrats to Villa for keeping the toxic six out.
Just on that one, keeping
didn't you?
Yeah. On about the...
You've got a really good chance of winning that Europa Conference. I'm sure Danielle, who's in the chat, will attest that West Ham haven't really played anybody of any note to get to the final. They're very, very mediocre teams in that competition. So you've got a really good chance of winning it if you show up properly. Good luck to you.
Yeah, cheers. And you're always going to get that though with a third tier European Cup. That there would be mediocre teams, like when the Europa League was first formed. There was a lot of mediocre teams in it, and then eventually got to the point where there's a lot of top quality teams in the Champions League and top quality teams in the Europa League. So the standard wasn't really much difference. Where now with the Conference League, it will eventually pick up, and you never know. You could see in the future 4th tier European Cup, and it just as a Villa fan, I still love it. Just European nights. I know Tottenham fans saying they didn't want it. Chelsea fans, like you said, didn't want it.
Yeah.
And as a Newcastle fan, at the beginning of the season, I would have been over the moon with a conference place.
Mm.
The fact that we've done better
100%.
than that is sort of like I'm in dreamland.
Yeah.
But that conference, possibly Europa. But yeah, I mean, it's not to be said about European nights.
Yeah. No, I'll be honest. At the start of the season, I had Newcastle down as 8th. I just didn't think you probably just have missed out on it, like just.
I mean,
But
my prediction was 8th to 6th.
Tony,
I think most Newcastle fans around that 7 and 8th. I think Tony said 7, win the Carabao Cup in the semi-final of the FA Cup, if I'm correct, Tony.
Tony,
Yeah. Sorry.
Hi, Tony.
Yeah. Hi there. Yeah, I mean, Mighty Win saying if you get the chance to go to Albania, go. It's fantastic, apparently. So he's obviously been to Albania before. I mean, I've been to a couple of Eastern Bloc countries. I've been to Latvia. That's a nice place, Latvia, especially Riga. And Poland's nice to go to as well. I've been to parts of Poland. I've been to Warsaw 3 times, and and it's a lovely place, Warsaw, beautiful city, and it's very cheap as well. Daniela says, as a Hammer fan, she says, good luck to Villa for the European Conference League. I hope you go for it like we have done, and you have a manager with European experience so you can do it. I mean, Emery's done it in Europe, hasn't he?
Yeah. 3 in a row with Sevilla. I mean, that's some feat. Like, regardless whether it's Champions League, Europa League, or Conference League, to win 3 European Cups back to back like that, that's elite level stuff. And when you have a manager like that knows how to win European Cups, it just brings a good mood into Villa now, knowing that we're in the conference.
Yeah. I mean, Lee says it's great to see the Big Six split up by other different teams in Europe. Yeah, definitely. Mighty Win says, yeah, Rolly. Sefton says, please hit the like and subscribe. Thanks very much, Sefton, one of my mods. And Mohammed says, Van der Sar's left Ajax after so many years. Okay, that's different. He might be off somewhere else then. So I'm going to come to Joe now. Brighton, you've got Europa League football. I mean, you clinched that against Man City with that 1-1 draw with that fantastic strike from Enciso, which was a brilliant goal, by the way. I mean, what a season Brighton have had. Did you expect this from the start of the season? After you got Potter, it looks like getting De Zerbi, you've found a jewel in the crown there. And in fact, I think De Zerbi has improved you more than Graham Potter did. So I think getting rid of Potter to Chelsea done you as a favour. Tell me about your season.
It's been up and down. When Graham Potter left, we thought it was the end of the world. As you say, turns out they did us probably one of the biggest favours they could have done us. They've improved our bank balance by 60 odd million as well, getting rid of Cucurella to there. At that time, we're probably thinking that's us derailed. And obviously, Adam Lallana and Andrew Cross took over for a couple of weeks. And luckily, we didn't play any games in that time due to there being a sort of a stoppage in the season. It was looking a little bit bleak. And for De Zerbi to come in and his first game being a 3-3 thriller at Anfield was fantastic. And you could see exactly what he was about and what he would bring. I was a little bit worried, to be honest, when we did bring in De Zerbi, because when I'd done my reading up of him, he predominantly liked to play the 4 at the back. And whenever Graham Potter played 4 at the back with Brighton, we always got demolished. I mean, the first time we played 4 at the back under Potter, we got beaten 3-0 by relegation Burnley side, which was not fun at all. To see how far the players could be pushed under Roberto De Zerbi and how much improvement he was getting out of certain individuals who weren't performing, like Solly March was a completely different beast under Roberto De Zerbi until he got injured, and really unlucky that he did get injured towards the end of the season, because had we have had his firepower towards the end of the season, maybe we could have been pushing on for those Champions League places. But of course we fell, I think, about 7 points short. And there's a few games in there that you maybe would have expected us to win, like that freak result against Everton. We played Forest on the back of our disappointing Wembley exit as well. So yeah, it's been very up and down. And to be honest, towards the end of the season, I didn't really expect us to get European football. I thought that Tottenham would improve. Obviously, they haven't. I've underestimated their Spursiness, I think. And Villa were coming out of nowhere, and they weren't stopping for anyone. And they've been a fantastic side to watch. And I was terrified to play Villa on the final day at Villa Park, knowing we might need to get something. So, yeah, thank God we confirmed it when we did, with a few favours along the way from other people. But as you say, the way we confirmed it under the lights that we're so looking forward to next season in Europe against Man City, going toe to toe with the best team in the world, and having probably our second string team out. Really, we were resting Lewis Dunk and people like that, and people were thinking, what the heck are we doing? We've got a goal difference to protect here, but we've gone out and drawn against them. And as you say, that strike from Enciso, rightly wins BBC Match of the Day goal of the season. And yeah, we're lucky because we've got so many goals of the season to pick from. We've had some unbelievable moments this season. And as I said before we came on, I didn't really want this. Sorry, I wanted the season to end because of how anxious it was making me. But now looking back, I'm like, these are the moments. Because I'm not fickle. I know it's not going to last forever. As a Brighton fan, I know that in some years that there could be a downfall of Brighton. But right now, these are the very best moments. And to be here talking to you guys about European nights next season is completely mind blowing, and I'm just soaking everything up whilst I can.
I just like. I mean, it's been a. I just want to say one thing to Joe. It's your fault that Everton stayed up.
Yeah, sorry about that. Sorry, guys.
Our Rowley Brighton up.
But I mean, I thought you deserved to beat Man City the other night. I thought you were superb. Man City got away with one there.
It's just nuts how we turn up against, Man City, Liverpool. We've beaten United twice this season, beaten Chelsea twice this season. And I know people will say, oh, that's not a hard thing to do. But considering what Chelsea did to us at the start of the season, it's extra sweet, and how much money they've spent. And then we go and lose 5-1 to Everton. That is typical Brighton. If you want to see quintessential Brighton, that is it.
Yeah. I mean, when you think in Brighton, it's been a breakthrough season with some players. I mean, nobody'd heard of Matoma. He come back. I think he'd been on loan, didn't he, Belgium or somewhere, and he came back, got into the team, and he looks a superb player. Evan Ferguson's come through. He looks fantastic up front. You've dropped your number one keeper. You now play Jason Steele in goal, which I heard De Zerbi the other day saying he's the number one keeper now. I mean, it's... I mean, Evan Ferguson, what a player, 18-year-old. He's going to get better, and you need to keep hold of him this summer.
The guy is unreal. We've been looking for that, I'll put this in quotation marks because it's not really a direct comparison, Murray replacement for years. And we think that finally it's come in the shape of Evan Ferguson. As you say, we need to keep hold of him. He's the most complete striker I've ever seen play for our football club. The way he plays is just stunning. I compare him a little bit to the likes of Harry Kane, who drops deep and gets the link up going, and then sprints forward and is just the fox in the box. And he plays so many different roles, and he's really exciting to watch. And the power of his strike as well is unreal. Against Southampton, when we were sort of looking to clinch our European spot, we were playing for the perfect goal like we would under Graham Potter, and it was really frustrating. And all we wanted was someone just to take a shot. And Evan Ferguson unleashes one of the most powerful strikes underneath McCarthy, and we're onto a winner. And that's the type of striker you want, someone that's just going to use his strength, turn and have a shot. And the boy knows where the back of the net is. He's been a revelation. So, yeah, we're very excited to see what he can do next season as well.
So the other thing,
Also, you've got the player of the match from the World Cup final as well, haven't you, McAllister? I mean, what a player he is, isn't he?
Yeah, I don't think we'll have him much longer. He had a very tearful goodbye at Villa Park, and he deserves to play at the highest level. It's a shame that he won't come on this Europa League journey with us, because I feel like he could, propel us to the latter stages of the knockouts, and the likes of Moises Caicedo, whether we keep hold of him. It's going to be a massive job this summer to one, keep hold of those players, and two, if they do leave, replace them, because for me, Moises Caicedo is irreplaceable. I don't think you could find a player as good as him at what he does anywhere else for the money that Brighton could spend anyway. So yeah, it's going to be scary times, but I think out of the two, Moises Caicedo is the most likely to stay. There was talks of him going to Chelsea. I don't know why he would go to Chelsea when they haven't got European football, and that's the position Brighton find themselves in. Well, exactly, yeah.
Money.
The position Brighton find themselves in now is we've never been in a European competition before, and we can bring all of these players in. And tempt players with our state-of-the-art training facilities. We've got a fantastic stadium. It's a lovely place to live. And guess what? You can play in the Europa League as well. So I'm quietly confident that we're going to have a really big transfer window, and we could see us really challenge in the Premier League and in the Europa League.
So apparently you've agreed to sign a midfielder from Borussia Dortmund on a free.
Yeah, Mahmoud Dahoud. He looks pretty decent. I can't say I'm an expert on him at all, but from what I have seen, I'm not against the idea. We're also looking at James Milner. His experience would be, unreal in around the dressing room. He'd be like the Adam Lallana type, and they're so important. I always see Adam Lallana in amongst it, even though he's injured. He's always in amongst it in the dressing room, on the pitch after the game, clapping the players off, and it's so important. So to have another figure like him, I'm not against that at all.
But isn't Adam Lallana like a player coach role at the minute in Brighton?
I'm not overly sure if that's an official thing, but he's doing his coaching badges whilst he's with us. So I don't know if that's in like an official title. But I imagine that's the role he will naturally move into. Yeah.
I've got a question for you there, Joe, from one of the viewers. He says, knowing what you know now, who would you rather have in charge of Brighton, Potter or De Zerbi?
I think that's quite obvious, is it not?
Absolutely, yeah.
The Italian king. I mean, I'm wearing an Italian shirt today. That just goes to prove how much I love him. I mean, the guy is the next elite coach coming through the ranks. He's going to go right to the very top of football. I think his ideas, his passion, the way he talks to the players, the way the players talk about him, I've got massive high hopes for him. And Graham Potter got a little bit too ahead of himself, and the arrogance was showing, rather than, like, in my opinion, De Zerbi can be arrogant because he's earned the right to be. He said before the Arsenal game, trust me, you're going to see the real Brighton today, and the real Brighton turned up and we beat them 3-0. Graham Potter wouldn't dream of making comments like that. So in terms of the mentality shift, that what we've seen from Graham Potter saying, we'll take the positives, this is the Premier League, it's the toughest league in the world, to Roberto De Zerbi saying, Brighton are a big team now, it's a no-brainer.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Matey Mag says, hi to you. Matey Maggie says, am I the only one that didn't rate Potter?
At times, people forget that we went a whole calendar year under Graham Potter not winning one Premier League match. These were the moments that, Chelsea would never allow that to happen. And we gave him that time to
Wait, you went a year?
We went one calendar year without winning a Premier League match, I believe, at home. Sorry, I forgot that bit. At home. We didn't win one Premier League match at home for a calendar year.
For a year?
Yeah.
Like that altogether, or like actually in a year?
Actually in a calendar year, so from January 1st right through to 31st of... So not in a season, but in a calendar year. So people forget that fact. And last season, we went 6 games without scoring a goal. And then scored a goal at St James's Park. Lewis Dunk finally broke that duck for us. So I don't think people are wrong to say that Graham Potter was overrated. But as a Brighton fan, I also recognise the work that he did do to get us to where we are. Everything that's led up to now has all been stepping blocks, and our owners are so astute at making those steps at the right time, and underground forced into making that change, of course. But it's shown to people that no matter when we lose someone, we always have a plan to replace them and move on to the next thing. So that's why I'm not overly concerned if we do lose Alexis and we do lose Moises Caicedo, because I think that people will be quite shocked to see what we can do when we're put under that pressure.
Yeah. Mighty Win goes on to ask, he says, Joe, as a fan, are you not annoyed that even though you've made Europe, the board hasn't made your big name stay?
I mean, we don't know that yet. Nothing's confirmed. I think Alexis, there's been talk that, you know, after he won the World Cup, look, play the rest of this season, get us to our target, and then you can move on. I think that's been the agreement. Now, with Moises Caicedo, he was horrifically advised in January to put a transfer request in and to do that publicly by his agents. And I believe he's parted way with those agents. I'm not sure if that's true. So if anyone knows anything more, do let me know.
But didn't he put up publicly that about saying thanks to the Brighton fans there a while ago for the season, and apparently it's a gentleman's agreement between him and De Zerbi to stay till June, and then he goes somewhere. Now the club hasn't been decided, obviously, but
there's a gentleman's agreement with the club that if a suitable offer comes in, and I imagine the transfer fee to be astronomical. So if anyone wants to meet that fee, go for it, pay the money.
And how much would you say?
I would say that's 90 million.
Oh,
85 to 90 million.
No.
It's got to be.
What? No.
He's just signed a new deal as well. We rejected 85 million from Arsenal in January.
Oh, wow.
And after we rejected that money from Arsenal, he signed a new deal. So that new deal bumps up that price, in my opinion.
You only paid 4 million for him, didn't you?
We only paid, but then, you know, that's the market. If he's worth that to Brighton, people have got to pay that to prize him away. So if no one's going to pay that, then he's going to.
True, it's a big 6 tax, isn't it? Like if them clubs do come in, like Leicester with Harry Maguire when they priced him at 80 million. Don't know how they got it. You know, like
I think if a team in Europe come for him, like Real Madrid or Bayern Munich, sorry. If someone like that comes in, I think
they won't be paying 100 million though. They won't pay that money though.
I think that fee is less if they come for him. But if a Premier League team come in,
I say
if a Premier League team come in, then that tax is put on because we don't want to sell Moises Caicedo to a rival.
Oh no, like I say, if a Bayern Munich or actually no, but put Real Madrid into this. If Real Madrid come into it, it'll be half the fee. But the way Madrid run business is, you know, there'll be bonuses. If we make a Champions League quarter final, you get this. If he wins La Liga Player of the Year, you get this. If he gets a certain amount of goals, you get this. There'll be loads of bonuses, probably putting that up to maybe our 70, 80 million pound mark.
Yeah, definitely. Thanks very much, Joe. I mean, I want to come to you now, Doug. Liverpool missed out on Champions League qualification. You know, I think you came really too late for that. You've had a bit of a funny season. You've secured Europa League, so you got Thursday night football. So you'll be playing Thursday, Sunday. I mean, if you win the Europa League, you'll qualify for the Champions League next season if you don't make the top 4. I mean, like I say, it's been a funny old season for Liverpool. You know, you started off with a draw at Fulham. Klopp, as usual, blaming the pitch rather than saying, you know, giving the credit to Fulham for playing so well on that opening day. You know, our game at Anfield was very controversial against us. At least we should have had a point out of that game. You know, not only was Isak offside supposedly for that second goal, which you look at them pictures and he doesn't look offside, but the VAR excuse was we couldn't tell whose shadow was who, so they couldn't tell if it was Joe Gomez's shadow or Isak's shadow, which I don't understand that one. And then Andrea Mariner, who, thank God he's retired today, added on an extra minute and a half, which we don't know where he got that minute and a half from, and allowed Carvalho to score the winner. And then he blew the whistle. So, it was controversial in the way of that. But, Doug, tell us about your season, Liverpool.
Very poor. Very, very poor, I've got to say. To go from nearly winning everything that we could have had last season, like obviously City won the Premier League, we won the FA Cup, we won the League Cup, and then losing the Champions League. To go from a season like that, where you play every single game, to literally becoming trophyless and then getting the Europa League, it's been a very poor season, but it's another fact of having a slow start. We seem to start seasons very, very slowly. The last couple of seasons we've started very, very slowly. It's sort of come back to bite us. I had a feeling that this season would be there would be a drop off. I didn't expect the drop off that we would envisage. I mean, we didn't win the first 3 games. We drew with Fulham, drew with Palace, and then lost Manchester United, and then came the 9-0 win against Bournemouth. It's quite funny because we've actually scored 6, 7, and 9 in the Premier League this season. It's just you can see where the problems are. Defensively, we've been a total shambles this season. And when your goalkeeper is your player of the season, that is very, very concerning because he's been made to work a lot more, but he's been absolutely outstanding. Salah getting 30 goals again in all comps is absolutely amazing as well. But it's not so much that we didn't deserve Champions League, and we 100% didn't deserve Champions League. I look at teams that have been in the top 4 all season. You guys, for example, Manchester City, Arsenal, Manchester United as well. Never this season we've never been in the top 4. We've either been sort of just outside it or just like miles away from it. And that Christmas period, that January was very, very costly. We did not win a single game in January. But it's the games against your Forests, your Leeds, your Bournemouths, like away from home. Like away from home against Forest, Bournemouth, we lost 1-0. Stupid results. Leeds at home, lost 2-1. I know we obviously, won 6-1 away at Leeds, but there has been a few good results in there. Beating Manchester United 7-0, I would never have envisaged that ever happening. I don't think it's ever going to happen again. I think that was just a complete one-off because I think Manchester United completely capitulated after we got the goal just before half-time and then the early goal after the second half. We beat City at home. That was a very, very good result as well. We've had some good results. But no, this season not strengthening in the midfield I think was a big factor. Because our midfield's been completely neglected. When you look at the signings that we made in the field, Naby Keita and Thiago were the last midfield signings we made. I'm not even going to mention Arthur Melo, who I think had 12 minutes in the Champions League game against Napoli, was never seen again. Carvalho, as you mentioned, he looks like he's going to be on the way out as well. But the one thing I think was very, very good in January, we got Gakpo, £36 million. He's got 7 goals in that time, so I think he'll be very, very good. We have lost Diogo Jota and obviously Luis Diaz, sort of long-term injuries. They were just slowly making their way back. But we need a fast start next season because obviously we've been in the Europa League. It is Thursday, Sunday football, which is never easy at all. So to get Europa League after the start we had is the best we could have hoped for.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's just a strange season. I mean, Trent Alexander-Arnold just didn't look like a right back at all this season. He's been very poor. but I see now you've moved him up into right midfield, and he looks a lot more comfortable in right midfield. So, is that the position he should have been playing all the time? Do you think, or has he been played out of position at right back?
I think there's now a sort of an understanding that I think probably we're going to be seeing Trent sort of merge into midfield now. And I think we'll go for a right back in the summer. I really do. I think Trent is now sort of merging into that hybrid midfielder role. Obviously, Pep uses Stones to do it with us as well. But yeah, I think you'll see a right back come in the summer. Because I think Trent is looking like a midfielder. He can't defend for toffee. It's as simple as that. But yeah, he was getting better. I've been very disappointed with Van Dijk this season. I think he has had a bit of a topsy-turvy season. He was looking okay in the sort of the latter parts of the season, but to begin with, he wasn't looking great. Konate's been our best defender by a completely long way. Darwin Núñez is sort of getting to grips with the Premier League. I think he is starting to show what he's all about as well. But we are losing Roberto Firmino, who has been a fantastic servant for us. We are losing as well James Milner. I know Joe was speaking about James Milner. We're not just losing a very, very good player in James Milner. We're actually losing a big, big character in that dressing room as well. And Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain and Naby Keita we're losing as well. And, Keita has been injured most of the season, so he's not too much of a loss. Ox, I feel sorry for Ox. I think Ox was that kind of player that was actually starting really, really well in his Liverpool career, and then he got injured against Roma, and his career just went down the pan, unfortunately. But I wish all four of them well. But I think if Brighton get Milner, I think Brighton will get a very, very good player in James Milner.
Yeah. Mighty Win says, Doug, did your fans undervalue Mane?
I think if we keep using the excuse that Sadio Mane has sort of been a big, big loss, I think when we look at it, I think Salah has been very, very good this season. He has had to sort of play a new role. But you look at Mane, the grass isn't always greener on the other side. And look what's happened to him at Bayern Munich. Obviously, he had that. I think he punched Leroy Sané, which is completely out of character from him. Mane has struggled at Bayern Munich. He has struggled at Bayern Munich this season. So, look, Mane is not there anymore. So we can't keep sort of blaming his loss on our season, because we just haven't been good enough all season. But I think Mane, to an extent, last season, he was sort of in and out of the team last season. He was always seemed to be very, very inconsistent, was Sadio Mane. But I think if Mane comes back to the Premier League, I don't think he'll be with us. I don't think you should ever go back, as I always say. But Mane is he's a good player. But I just think this season, with him going to Bayern Munich, it did have a detrimental effect. I think Robertson had a very, very good understanding with Mane down the left-hand side. He has obviously had to sort of do that with, Luis Diaz, obviously Núñez, and Jota there as well. But I don't think Mane's too big of a loss if we're talking about this season.
Yeah, definitely. Daniela, she's a West Ham fan. She says Liverpool's had a Jekyll and Hyde season this season, haven't they?
100%. I mean, as you said, Tony, the run to try and get into the Champions League was just too little, too late.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean,
I was going to say, I live on Merseyside, and my other half's a Red. Sefton in the chat, his missus is a Red as well. And she doesn't like it when I said we gave you 6 points and you still couldn't catch us. But But you're actually the only one that has joined the show that's not actually happy with the season, which shows to where Liverpool sort of expect themselves to be. I think that was addressed in Salah's tweet after you failed to qualify. Well, I mean, everyone knows of what Liverpool have done apart from that spell in the 90s where they were mid-table, but they've always been challenging. And especially of late, and after the season he had, winning the league and then doing so well last season, it must be a real disappointment for you to not at least get Champions League. But as you said, your start was atrocious by your standards.
Yeah, it was, and I absolutely agree with you as well to the fact that I don't like the term entitled fan, and I'm definitely not one of them. I think you always have to sort of earn what you need to win, as well. But unfortunately, I look at this season, and I think what really hurt us was obviously the Real Madrid 5-2 at home is just awful, absolutely awful. But I do think as well we just haven't been good enough all throughout the season, and I have absolutely no complaints with the Europa League, to be honest with you, and I have no complaints of not making the Champions League because, as I said earlier, we've not been in the Champions League places all season. So if we had actually got in there by taking someone's place, then we wouldn't have deserved it.
Tony, I think
you finish where you deserve to finish because it's not about 1 or 2 games. It's about 38 games. And if you're good enough over 38 games, you qualify. You are where you are for a reason.
Tony, hi. Good afternoon, gentlemen. Don't know if you can hear me.
Good afternoon. Yes, I'm coming to you as well. Obviously, Man City, you've won the title again. You know, it looked like it was Arsenal's, but Arsenal just sort of lost the plot in that. In that title race. I think when you'd done them 4-1, I think that was game over for Arsenal, in my opinion. I mean, sum up your season, how it's been so far, and what's still to come as well.
Yeah, before I sum up the season, I want to talk very quickly about congratulating Newcastle, Brighton, Villa. You deserve it. I think in August when we first met, Tony, I told you you're going to make top 6.
Yeah,
I was steadfast in that. I don't do the trolling stuff and the BS that people do. You look at the data from the start of the year, Newcastle were top 2 in terms of their form. Didn't surprise me. Your owners are smart. They know what to do. They know how to do it. These guys are big boys. They don't fool around or clown around. I expected you guys to make top 6. Top 4, my God, it's icing on the cake. With Brighton, again, once Potter got out and you got De Zerbi, it didn't surprise me that you got to where you are today. De Zerbi is known at Sassuolo to be an innovative manager who knows the game, who's a student of the game. Let's talk about Villa. Is anybody surprised at Unai Emery? Seriously? Back-to-back Europa League finals? Okay, he messed up at PSG, but who doesn't? No surprise. And here we are today, right? All these guys right there up there, top 5, top 6. And guess what? Next year is going to be even more difficult for the traditionals because next year is no longer top 4 in Champions League. It's top 5 because of the new UEFA rules for 24-25 season. Top 5 because of England's coefficient gets to the Champions League, which means that 6 and 7 and 8 probably get to Europa League. So the boys are here to stay. If anybody thinks Newcastle, Brighton, and Villa are going away, no. They're here to stay. This idea that somehow, Chelsea, I'm out of the Champions League, I'm out of the conference. No. It's a mistake in my opinion. Because winning breeds confidence, gives you money, gives you credibility, gives you street cred. You're up there. You're right there. You win the Conference League, you're in Europa League, baby. You're right there. Right? You win the Europa League, you're in the Champions League all of a sudden. So it's the only disappointment was I expected Liverpool to do more this year, granted where they were. I think if Liverpool were Liverpool, I don't think Arsenal smell the top 3 or top 4. I think Liverpool do what they normally do, which is challenge City all the way. So the season has been one where it's been pleasant to me because we won the title, but I'm happy to see Newcastle, Villa, Brighton challenge and play bloody good football to be there. Not fluky, bloody good football to be there. Case in point, Brighton versus City at the Amex, one of the best games of the season. I learned so much as a coach about what Brighton do off the ball. This concept called artificial transition, where the goalkeeper basically, right, stands on the ball. If you notice in that game, right, Brighton sucked in City with Haaland to get that goal with this artificial transition concept. Brilliant. Newcastle 3-3 at the St. James's Park against City. What can you say? Hands up. Brilliant performance.
Yeah.
Right. Villa.
Yeah.
Got good football. 4-2-2-2 or 4-2-3-1. What do you say?
It's actually a 4-4-2, but the second striker is sort of like a false 10, false 9, so he plays in behind the striker.
Exactly. And what can you say? So for me, congrats to all these guys here. Liverpool will be back. I've said it from day one. I've always said it. The only team that I fear, right, in the top 4 is Liverpool, because they know how to play City. Now we have another game coming up this weekend against United, and we have the Champions League. My fan base, I have this debate with them time and time again about the FA Cup. I couldn't give 2 about the FA Cup, frankly, guys. I'm sorry. I just couldn't, because I just couldn't play the kids. But the game on June 10th is so big. Liverpool fan, who's a Liverpool fan right here? Is right there, is he? It is huge.
Yeah.
It's massive. Nothing should cloud out the treble. Okay, give it to United. They want the treble, give them the treble. Let them have the treble. That's fine. Keep the treble. But you win June 10th, everything changes. Everything changes. Everything changes. Villa can talk about that. Liverpool can talk about that. I can't talk about that. Chelsea can talk about that. I can't. So, great season. I'm just building up to June 10th, studying Inter Milan, looking at what they do, how they play, what their weaknesses are, what their strengths are. So that perhaps, maybe, somehow, we get a manager who won't overthink things and play the best team to play and win that game. And then we can have a conversation around, okay, let's think about what do we do next. That's kind of where I'm at, Tony.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I've got a lot of respect for Guardiola. I think, you look at Guardiola, he's got a soft spot for Newcastle anyway, because obviously Sir Bobby Robson was his ex-manager at Barcelona. But, when we drew 3-3, the Sky cameras, they kept asking him, well, are you surprised at this draw? Last season you won 4-0. And he said, look, let's put this straight. Last season might have been a 4-0 win. He says, but it certainly wasn't this season. Yeah. He says, we've came up against the team today. He says, and let me tell you, he says, this is actually a great point for City. And, and the reporter sort of looked, he went, a great point? He went, yes, it's a great point for City. He says that'll be an important point.
Tony, absolutely. When we did a preview show about the game, I was nervous. I talked about, if we're going to win anything, maybe it's a 1-0, but more than likely it's going to be a point. Right? You can't argue with the data. The data was clear. From January through August, you guys were top form. I mean, second in the league or maybe top form. It's not by accident.
Yeah.
You have the energy, you have the press, you have the drive, you have great players. You can play in different modes. Great goalkeeper, you're defensively solid. You're good under transition. We are playing this inverted fullbacks, which you tore us apart with. Walker had a nightmare against ASF. It's the game. You respect your opposition. Yeah. You don't take them for granted. That's the way I see things, at least. So, yeah, man. I mean, I'm excited for you guys. I'm excited for you guys next season. I am in the Champions League. I've looked at your possible opponents in the Champions League. You're going to be in pot 3, I believe.
Pot 4.
Right?
Pot 4.
Pot 3 or 4. Pot 3 or 4, right?
Yeah.
Depends on a couple of things, right?
It'll be pot 4 because we've got the worst coefficient of people qualifying because we've not been in the Champions League for 20 years.
So if you're lucky, you could get Sevilla, you could get Benfica, you could get Feyenoord, right?
Yeah.
You could get Dortmund, you could get Porto. You just never know, guy. Right? Come September the 19th or in September 10th, when the draws are made, right? You could get an easy path to get Newcastle qualify for the Champions League, right? Everybody knows the issue we had with your wage-to-income ratio. The fact that you qualify for the Champions League opens up what I call the box in terms of how much money you can actually bring in, because now you have the revenue from the group stage, which is confirmed. It's there. Yeah. Now all of a sudden you attract different sponsors, you get more revenue, you can buy more players, you can build more, you can achieve more. It's a whole different ballgame. Villa in Conference League, same thing. Okay, it's a small competition. Now it's a European Cup. It's a European Cup. There's money attached to that. There's legacy attached to that. It's amazing. It's just amazing. Spurs are not there. Spurs are not there. With a big stadium, with all the NFL stuff, they're not there. Liverpool win the Europa League, guaranteed, which means that next year they're a seeded team in the Champions League. Unless they take the foot off the pedal and don't want to win the Europa League. But they're going to be there. So it's this whole mix of different permutations is really interesting for me, at least, going into next season. But again, congrats to everyone out here and on what you guys have done.
Yeah.
I see.
I mean, I've got a question for you. I mean, Daniela's saying, she's saying, City have to beat Man United just to shut them up, please.
I mean, again, many of my families agree with this. I just can't give two about United in the FA Cup. I just couldn't. I mean, put it this way, right? If De Bruyne, Haaland, Stones, and Bernardo Silva have niggles going into the United game, are you really going to play them against United when you could rest them for the Champions League? What if they get injured again in the final? What happens? The magnitude of the Champions League, and Liverpool fans can talk about this all day long, right? And Villa too. It's so huge that the FA Cup against United pales in comparison, in my opinion. I could be wrong. I may be the only one. Just pales in comparison.
Yeah, but would you not agree with me, Pitch Point, when I say if you beat Man United and then you go and get the treble team of Man City this year, in my opinion, would trump the team of '99.
I agreed. It would.
Because the points in the league, it's the way they play football, they dominate teams. You know, there wasn't like, oh, you had one game with a bit of luck or 2 or 3 games with a bit of luck. But, you know, I just think that this team it just held to compare to that team of '99. And, you know, and to be honest, I'm sick of the Man United fans mentioning the '99. You may as well just you may as well get me the '99 from the ice cream van with a bit of, you know what I mean? Like,
I mean, I would like, if they do it, I would be ecstatic, right? I would be, and maybe it's because growing up as a kid, you know, overseas, I didn't get much of the FA Cup, right? So I always watch Romario, Finidi George, Rijkaard, all these guys, you know, Maldini in the European Cup and the Champions League. I remember those in my childhood growing up. So there's an emotive connection to that competition because of what it brings. I remember the Liverpool of 2005 against Milan in Istanbul, right? The way that I was like, wow, that's incredible to come back from 3-0 down to win that competition was great. And then 2 years afterwards, it was Milan against Liverpool in another stadium, winning the competition again. The emotion of that was just, as a kid, like, you know, wide-eyed. So maybe I'm not the best person to ask about that because I'm not a local Mancunian. I don't understand what that is with United. But I understand what this European Cup means, right? For the game, for a club, what it brings, the doors it opens for you. I mean, even till today, Villa talk about their European Cups. Forest talk about their European Cups. We can't.
We
cannot.
Yeah.
Right? So, yeah, it's kind of where I'm at. But again, I may not be the best person, Tony, to ask about the United treble, you know, how they feel. There are others who can talk about that. I just have that, you know, after Chelsea 2 years ago, we just have to win this game. We just have to win this game. If we don't, you beat United in the FA Cup, nobody's going to care. Nobody will.
Yeah. I mean, thing is, I mean, we've had it from, we get it from journalists, we get it from rival fans as well. And, you know, it's something I've become used to. I mean, look, we've got other Newcastle channels, we've got, you know, fans. And one certain channel, he keeps coming up and he keeps having a go at these journalists. And I keep saying, don't know why you bother. I wouldn't waste my breath on the journalists, to be honest. But we get it from fans and that, oh, yeah, Newcastle's up there because they've got the money. Actually, if you look at it, yes, we've spent money, but we haven't spent an awful lot of money.
Yeah.
There are players at that club that were there before them owners came in. Joe Linton, Miggy Almiron, Sean Longstaff, Fabian Scher.
Facts.
You know, they were
Joe
all
Willock.
there. Joe Willock, they were all there before them owners came in. And Eddie Howe has made Joe Linton into a world-class midfielder. That is why he's in the Brazilian squad.
Facts.
Joe Linton was a £40 million flop. We wanted shot of him before the season started, before the new owners came in. We wanted rid of Joe Linton because we said he's not even championship standard. Now he's one of the best midfielders in the Premier League, and and I'm glad he's got the call up for Brazil. But this is down to the coaching of Eddie Howe. And for people who doubted us having Eddie Howe, I hope they're all eating their words now, because I'll tell you now, once Eddie Howe wins us a trophy or two, and that once you start winning trophies, you become an elite manager. And the thing is, with Eddie Howe is, if people haven't researched Eddie Howe, go and look at some of his videos, go and watch what he's done, because when he left Bournemouth, he went on a tour around Europe. He went to Juventus, stood in the training ground with Sarri to see how he does stuff. He then went to see Simeone and how he done it at Atletico. And then he spent some time with Klopp as well, just so he could learn off different managers, different techniques, and how he could improve himself as a better manager. And, and all that willingness that he's done, it's shown off now. And, the other guys in the panel there, you might agree, but does Eddie Howe look now a better manager than he was at Bournemouth?
I'll drop by 2 cents. I have to run in like 2 minutes. I have another meeting coming up.
Yeah.
It's afternoon here in the US here. But what Eddie Howe has done, in my opinion, should be a candidate for player manager of the season. Mm-hmm. Taking this club from where 19th, 18th, right?
Yeah.
To Champions League football. I mean, think about that. From 19th to Champions League football, not Europa League or Conference League. Champions League football on the same points as United, or maybe a 3 points difference? With a better
4 points,
difference?
yeah.
Come on, guy. Seriously, come on.
Yeah. I mean, the goal difference is like 25 plus what Man U are.
If Sam Allardyce had done that, the whole media empire would be hailing Sam as the godfather of football.
Yeah.
Just be clear. So, kudos to you, Tony. Thanks for having me on the show. I have to run to a meeting, but next season, before we start, let's talk about the draw, the Champions League. Let's talk about, whatever you want to talk about. I'm here for you. I'm here, guys. So, thanks for having me
definitely,
on.
Mate.
Good luck to Brighton, Villa. Good luck to Liverpool. Respect you guys to death. And good luck to the tune.
Thank you very much, mate.
Thank you.
Cheers.
You're a great guy. Thank you.
Yep.
Yeah, he's a great guy, he is. But yeah, I mean, you look at Eddie Howe, and yes, I know people look at him and think, oh, Eddie Howe, he's not a huge household name. But this season, he's got his break at a big club. And he's at a club where it's on the up. You've got owners in who are ambitious, who want to win stuff. And, he's took us to a cup final this season, the Carabao Cup final. I actually predicted us before a ball was kicked. I actually said, we'll finish 7th, we'll win the Carabao Cup, and we'll get the semi-finals of the FA Cup. We got knocked out the third round of the FA Cup. But he took us to the final of that Carabao Cup. And I thought we played better than Man United on the day. We just couldn't score. That was the only problem. And Man U did. But, to get to a cup final, if somebody had said to me last season, once we stayed up, if somebody had said to me last season, right, next season we're going to be in the top 4 in the Premier League and we're going to be in the Champions League, I would have laughed at them. I would have said, don't be stupid. You're deluded, But to think we have actually finished 4th, and we're not there because of money, we're there because we've played some bloody good football all season. We have been brilliant. I mean, we have been annihilating teams. I mean, as I said to you earlier on, Martin, we tore you apart at St James's Park 4-0. We took Fulham apart 4-1. We took Spurs apart. We ripped them a new backside. I mean, basically, within 21 minutes, we were 5 up. and we just took our foot off the gas. I mean, even Alexander Isak's celebration said it all. He was like, "Is the Premier League really this easy?" I mean, and to go and beat Spurs like that 6-1. I think that once we beat them 6-1, that knocked all their confidence and that knocked them out the top 7. You wouldn't have thought they would have gotten knocked out the top 7, but we've actually taken some teams away. I mean, Brighton, for instance, we went 2-0 up on Brighton. They got a goal back in the second half through Undav, and they played actually quite well in that half. And we scored 2 goals in a minute and killed the game off. That's how quick we can score goals. And that's all down to Eddie Howe and his management, and I think Eddie Howe's been brilliant. And I just say, if we'd got, I mean, there was rumours when our former owner was there, that in that July they were talking about getting rid of Bruce because Lee Charnley spoke to Eddie Howe. And but then we kept a hold of Bruce. Had Eddie Howe come in from the beginning of that season, 1, we wouldn't have been fighting against relegation when the new owners come in, and 2, we would have finished in the European place last season. I don't doubt that, but but for people to write us off, they kept writing us off last season. Relegated. You got no chance. If you can't win in 14 games, you're not staying up. We're the first team to do it, and we've proved them wrong. I mean, I'll come around the table. I mean, Joe, what's your thoughts on Eddie Howe?
I think probably one of those managers that, whilst he was doing so well at Bournemouth, you maybe tipped him to be the next man for the England job, to be honest. I could see him doing that. But I think, given his sort of footprint on football of what he's done before coming to Newcastle, I think he's done enough to deserve that chance to be managing a team towards the top of the table. And it's no mean feat what he's done with Newcastle. I find it a really lazy thing for people to say, "Oh, yeah, it's only because of the money," because, as you've rightly pointed out, there's so many players in there that haven't been, brought in astronomical fees. When the takeover was coming in, people were saying, "Oh, Neymar for 100 million, Mbappe for 200 million." That's not happened. That's not the way that these owners have done it. And you have to say fair play to them because they've recognised how to be successful in the Premier League. And Eddie Howe has done wonders because he's got that Premier League experience. And you're rightly where you deserve to be. So, no, fair play to you guys.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, plus we've also got financial fair play because thanks to our former owner, the club didn't generate enough funds. So it's what our owners are trying to do. They're trying to get the funds generated in the club. Like Fun 88 now, that's gone at the end. That's finished now. But that was only bringing in 8 million a season. We're looking at going to someone called Seller, who are a Saudi Arabian company, but they do events, and they're going to pay 25 million a season. I mean, the sleeve badge, that went up to 7.5 million. The sleeve badge that the sleeve sponsor, at the end of the day, when they're paying 7.5 million, they're actually paying more than Castor for supplying the kits each year, because again, ex-owner put it down to 5 million a season. We're hoping it's in a long-term deal, but we're hoping, obviously we've got Castor next season, but we're hoping to get rid of them for the following season and go back to maybe Adidas or someone like that. I mean, because the owners are just trying to get the funds back in the club and get the club generating. And then once we generate enough funds and financial fair play goes up, then we can start spending a little bit more money. But at the moment, we're under tight constraints, and that's the problem. But, in time, Champions League, that brings you automatically 39 million straight in before you've qualified, before you've even got through the group stages and the TV money. So you get that just for getting to the competition. You get 37 million for finishing fourth. So there's 76 million straight away. Then you add the 25 million from Seller. If that's the new sponsor, that's 101 million straight away in the club, So already that'll buy you a player or two, depends how many you want. But yeah, so it's all on the up at the moment. It's all positive. And, I think these owners have been absolutely fantastic. Not just Amanda Stavely and not just Jamie Rubin, but also the Saudi side of it as well. They've been a breath of fresh air. And the better thing, But the one thing I do want to say about these owners, which I do like more than anything, and it's not about the spending, the fact is they communicate with the supporters, unlike the 14 years we had of that tyrant who could not give a shit about the fans, basically. He could not care about us fans. And I think a lot of it now with some of the clubs and the fans, the way they get a bit funny towards us, it's because now we're not that easy club, or we're not that team that just turns up and their team can turn us over like 3 or 4-0. We've had that in the past too many times, and now we're starting to turn that around, and we've done it to some teams this season. And I can't wait for next season. I mean, Martin, what's your thoughts on Eddie Howe and how he's done for us?
Yeah, no, he's done a fantastic job. Obviously when you mentioned there that he lost 14 games, we kind of have to remember that was before the January transfer window.
Yeah.
And, that was his first window, and he went and bought, I know with the funds from the club and whatever, that was naturally, a gift for you. And, if that was any team, would they be as high as Newcastle? Maybe not, because of the job Eddie Howe has done. But to just bring in Bruno Guimaraes, to bring in, he was going to bring in Botman, but he didn't get him to the summer. Signing 2 or 3 players, changing 2 or 3 players' positions, and ended up working. I think they ended up finishing 9th
11th.
that year. 11th, right?
Yeah, last season, 11th. Yeah.
And ended up going to there. And I would have thought you would have kicked on to 8th, maybe just missing out on Europa League, Conference League spot. But for you to get Champions League and do it not like by just a point or you bring it to the last day, but to comfortably do it, smacking teams and the way his play, it is really good to see. But I do think, though, if Eddie Howe was there, and let's say them funds weren't there, and you were on that 14-game unbeaten run, winless run, I think then you might have been looking at going down. But I can't take it away from Eddie Howe because he has done a fantastic job. He deserves his mention for, manager of the season, which, let's be honest, we all know this is probably going to go to Pep if they win the Champions League and the FA Cup. That's what the FA are holding out on, just to wait and see with how this treble goes. But I have to give my congratulations to Eddie Howe, but at the same time, if he didn't have the funds that he had, we wouldn't be having a conversation of Newcastle getting to European football. I'm a very realistic football fan, so forgive me if you think this is slating. It's not. But again, I can't take it away from Eddie Howe. He has done a fantastic job. Probably for a lot of Newcastle fans, I'm pretty sure you'd say this, Tony and Rowley. When he was announced, you wouldn't have put him on your first. But, so he has done a great job. He really has done a good job.
I mean, we were linked with some stupid names like Conte, and I was glad. I did not want Conte, by the way. I did not want him anywhere near our football club. And for the reason why at the time I said I didn't want Conte was because, one, he never stays in a job long enough.
No.
And he always gets a bit funny towards the owners. And that's exactly what he's done with Tottenham. We've seen the outburst and we've seen him get sacked. And he was only there less than 18 months.
And then Gerrard and Unai Emery said no, didn't they?
Well, Unai Emery, he was due to come, but it was down to a leak from the club. Now, we're not sure whether it was from the owners or whatever, but it was from somebody in the club leaked it out that he was coming. And that was on the night of a Champions League game that Villarreal were involved with, and they won the game. And then Emery says, I'll sign that new contract now. I'm not going to Newcastle now. Because Eddie Howe thought Unai Emery was getting that job. And he says, all right, okay, I've missed out now. That's not my job now, so I'm not getting it. When Emery turned down the job, and Eddie Howe said in the press conference, he didn't say the word, he just said OF, but he said, it was like, OF, it's real now. I've got the Newcastle job, But I mean, going back, I mean, when you go back to last season in the January, I mean, bringing Kieran Trippier at the club, that was a masterstroke. £12 million, you know, a steal in my eyes. That. So we brought Trippier in, but we didn't bring nobody massive into the club. I mean, we brought in like Dan Burn, you know, we brought in Matt Targett on loan from yourselves from Villa, you know, good left back in Matt Targett. We brought Chris Wood in for £25 million from, you know, so we brought him in as well, Wood from Burnley, which a lot of people looked at and thought, well, what have you signed Chris Wood for? And then obviously we brought Bruno in from Lyon, who nobody had heard of him really. And, you know, the last that people were looking at was Arsenal were going to sign him. And all of a sudden we just come out of nowhere and signed him. So he had no Premier League experience, but he left a team in Europe that was still in European competition, joined a team that was in the relegation zone. So he was taking a risk with his own career by coming to a team in the relegation zone. But again, it proved to be a masterstroke. Eddie Howe didn't play him straight away, give him little cameos, then brought him on and started playing him in games. And then we saw the class of Bruno Guimaraes, and he is a class midfielder. But what Eddie Howe did was he just brought in players that had Premier League experience just to help us get over the line and stay up. But we didn't. But we ended up finishing about 7 points just outside of 7th place last season. So if Eddie Howe had won, say, a couple or 2 or 3 more of those games, we could have ended up 7th place last season, you know. Or if he was in a lot earlier, I do say we would have finished higher. But this season, we've brought in Sven Botman. We've got Nick Pope for £10 million. Not a lot of teams are going in for Nick Pope. I think at £10 million, the season Nick Pope's had, he's been outstanding. And yes, we know he's had a couple of moments like that one against Liverpool at St James's Park when he come out and smothered the ball, you know. But other than that, Pope's been absolutely fantastic between the sticks. You know, we brought Botman in, who has been a terrific defender, a £35 million, an absolute bargain. Young Dutch defender. We got Isak as well. I mean, you know, so we've brought some great players into the club, but we haven't paid out. The only one we've paid out a massive fee for is Isak at £63 million. But he's worth every penny of that, and you can see it with him. And I think next season you'll see the best of Isak next season, because he'll have had a full pre-season under Eddie Howe, and that'll go the same with Anthony Gordon as well. You'll see a better Anthony Gordon next season. And with the way Eddie's got a record of improving players, if he improves Gordon tenfold, then we've got a player on a bargain of 40 million quid from Everton, because Everton fans think, oh, he's not that great. But, you know, we've seen what Eddie can do. He can work his magic. Look what he's done with Joe Linton, Sean Longstaff. You know, he's got them players playing at the top of that game, and that's got now Joe Linton in the Brazil squad. So yeah, Eddie Howe has been, I can't see any more than absolutely fantastic. And you know, he gets the team. I mean, he's even got Callum Wilson playing better than he's probably playing better now in his career than he played when he was at Bournemouth. So you know, that may be because he put Wilson on the bench for a few games and brought him off as an impact sub. Miggy Almiron, people, you know, Jack Grealish last year. Oh, let's hope you should play like, don't play like Almiron, you know. And it's like, but Almiron came out this season and he was firing. I think after his injuries, he's gone a little bit quiet. But you know, let's see what he does next season. But it's a big summer ahead for us because we do need some players in. But yeah, I mean, Eddie Howe seems to be able to handle these players. So, and even Bruno Guimaraes has even said Eddie Howe is a great manager. He says, you know, he says he's brilliant. He says, I'd never heard of him when I came to the club. I was like, who's Eddie Howe? But he said, I know who he is now. He says, and he makes you work for you. He says he makes you work on the training ground and on the pitch as well. So, you know, nobody can't speak highly of him, you see. So he's, yeah. But I think he's been an absolute breath of fresh air.
I'd just like to pick up one point that Martin said about the funds. We have spent money, but last January and the first when the O's came in, we spent a lot for January because we needed to.
Go on, yeah.
But so we've not spent outrageously. I think this season we spent sort of like the 7th most. And you look at what Chelsea has spent. So we've done it organic. We've not been outrageous, but the thing we've done is we've got value for money.
Yeah, no, I get that. But the point that I'm making, I know you sit and spend a ridiculous amount or astronomical fees because of the money that the owners have. The point I'm trying to make is that if Mike Ashley, was still there,
we wouldn't have got a tenth of the
you
money.
wouldn't have got, in my opinion, I don't think you could get a Trippier for 12 million. You don't get
absolutely.
Bruno Guimaraes with 30, 40. You wouldn't get, Joe Linton probably wouldn't have gone into centre mid. This is the thing that I was just trying to make out. It's not that I think Newcastle have spent that.
That's a good point.
Yeah, it's not that I think Newcastle they spent the money, whatever, and that's why they're there and that's why they're in Champions League. It's not like that at all.
Yeah, I just wanted to get some clarification on that.
No, that's fair. No,
I agree with you
100%
there.
Like
under the previous owner, we get relegated.
That's literally the point I was trying to make. I probably should have made that a bit more clearer. But if Mike Ashley was still there, like I said, you wouldn't get a Trippier, you wouldn't get the Bruno Guimaraes, you wouldn't get the Isaac, you wouldn't get, all these good players along with what you have, because you've said it, Tony, there's still a large chunk of the players that Newcastle have, and they've only just added maybe 6 or 7. But now you compare it to the previous owner, them 6 or 7 are probably going to be playing for the likes of Arsenal, Chelsea, Man United, Liverpool, like the bigger clubs, or somewhere else with a European club that might have European football. And that's just the point I was trying to make. It's not that I think Newcastle are only there now because they have money. It's not that.
No.
It's not that at all. It's because they have a good manager. They have now a good system in place because of their owners and everything else, and trying to get their funds in for, not for transfers, but like for facilities, for fan bases, community centres. Under the previous owner, you were calling for his head for the last 15, 20 years, So that's just the point I was trying to make. So I probably should have made that a bit more clear.
Yeah, that's fair enough. And I totally agree with what you're saying there.
I'm going to give you the same question as well, Doug. I mean, Eddie Howe, your thoughts?
Sorry, Doug, before you say that, I have to, unfortunately, now I actually have to tip off. So, look, thanks for having me on. Really appreciate it.
No worries, Martin.
Cheers,
Loved the little debate there, Rowley. That was good. We should definitely do that one again. Brighton, well done, getting Europa League. Liverpool, sorry you didn't get your Champions League, but you still have European football, nonetheless. And Newcastle, soak in all the Champions League. Soak it in.
We will.
Martin, sorry, Martin, before you go, obviously next season, must have you on for the previews of the games when we play Villa. If you can get on next season, that'll be absolutely fantastic. But before you go, do you want to give your channel a plug, mate, and where people can find you on social media as well?
Yeah, so the name there on the screen is at marto.leonardo. That's my Twitter, and you'll also see, when you go onto my page, you will see at Villa Park Pod, which is, we'll call ourselves the Villa Park Podcast. We've recently just got over 1,500 subscribers, on the way hopefully to 1,600, and been going really well. And we've got some big plans coming up for transfer window, for the season ahead, predictions, the whole lot. And finally, this time, because it's the big one, we're gonna do, hopefully, actually no, it's not hopefully, we will, European podcasts. It's absolutely unbelievable. So I am over the moon and I can't wait. So that's where you can find us, and hopefully all you can subscribe. And if you all send me your channel on the Twitter when you see it, I'll be sure to give you all subscribe. I am subscribed to this channel, so Douglas, Joe, just give me a shout with your pages and I'll make sure I subscribe to you.
Thanks very much indeed, Martin. Thank you.
Cheers,
and
take it easy, lads. Have a good one.
Definitely see you next season, mate. Thank you.
You too. Bye-bye.
See you later, mate. Bye-bye. Yeah. Right, Doug. Yeah, so Eddie Howe,
Oh, fantastic manager. I remember when you were sort of first linked with him, like, I think he turned down Celtic, and I thought, right, okay, So where else is he going to go? So I think Everton didn't have a manager at the time, and obviously it is highly well documented that he is a big Evertonian. So I think the fact that Everton didn't actually go for Howe was a big wake up call when I saw that. But since Eddie Howe has come into Newcastle, he has been absolutely fantastic. And the one thing I look at as well with him is that yes, you have spent money, but you've spent it wisely. You've not gone out like a Chelsea and wasted £650 million in the last 12 months on like absolute dross. Botman, Pope, they're very, very good signings. They are very, very good signings. Pope has been fantastic. Yes, he has had a couple of mistakes in him, but every goalkeeper does have a mistake in him. But Botman, one of the defenders of the season for me. How you managed to get him ahead of the likes of AC Milan was fantastic. As well, Trippier. I just look at that Newcastle side, and yes, I know you've spent. Isaac has been a fantastic signing. I watched a lot of him at Real Sociedad, and I thought he was the real deal there. So I said that he was always going to come to the Premier League at some point. But when you look at what Newcastle have done this season, like you were for a time, and I think you probably still are the meanest defence in the league. And that was very, very good. That was very, very good when you look at it. And as well, your home form has been very, very good. You battered like Southampton. You battered like Tottenham. That Tottenham game, I was just in awe of how good Newcastle were.
I think we all were.
I think everybody was, but I think you make a very, very good point when he says you can improve players, and I think looking at this squad at the moment, like you look at Joe Linton, he's been completely improved by Eddie Howe. I think Jason Tindall has to take a lot of credit as well, because I think Eddie Howe's right hand man when he was at Bournemouth as well. No, I think Eddie Howe is taking new places, and I think he's kind of answered a few sort of critics saying, "Oh, Eddie Howe teams don't defend." Well, look at what's happened. Look at what's happened. He's actually managed to get the meanest defence in the league. I only think the only way is up for Newcastle, and as well, like the great man Sir Bobby Robson will be looking down on Newcastle as well, just saying, well done, our Eddie, because Eddie Howe is going to be a fantastic manager. And look, I think alongside Pep and Emery, I think that is my three for manager of the season.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah,
I think there's an honourable mention for Deservi as well. I don't think he's
100%.
He's done a fantastic job at Brighton.
In that Premier League manager of the season, I did sort of criticise because I thought, well, why is Marco Silva in there? Because in all honesty, if I was going to put a contender in there, I wouldn't have put Silva in there. I would have said put Gary O'Neill in there. After they lost 9-0 to Liverpool, and then Parker got sacked because of his outburst, Gary O'Neill was interim manager right until the World Cup. Then he got the job over the World Cup. And then I know there was I spoke to a Bournemouth fan, and he was a bit like, "Oh, I'm not sure if we should still have him by the time he was playing us down at the Vitality." But he's kept them up, and he's kept them up comfortably. Now, why is he not up there for Premier League Manager of the Season? Because I think he's done a fantastic job for Bournemouth.
100%. He has done a very, very good job for Bournemouth. I saw a lot of Manchester United fans say, "Why is Ten Hag not there?" Yes, Ten Hag has done a very, very good job, but I actually look at the away record, and the away record was not great. Like, they conceded 6s, they conceded 7s, they even conceded 4, I think, against Brentford as well. But yeah, Marco Silva is an interesting one. I think the fact that he brought Fulham up, and I think as well from his time at like Hull, Everton, Wigan, as well, Watford, he had, before going into those jobs, a 30% win rate in the Premier League. So I think he's answered a lot of critics as well. I think Mitrovic has been rejuvenated as well, considering that Parker never even played him. As well, yeah, Scott Parker had to go at Bournemouth. He was completely out of his depth. The only thing good about him is his cardigans. That's it. And then you look at like Parker as well with like Club Brugge as well. He didn't do a good job there with him as well. He was sacked there as well. So yeah, I would 100% agree with Gary O'Neill. Gary O'Neill's done a magnificent job at Bournemouth, and you wonder where they go from next season as well.
I think another manager that's done a good job under really trying circumstances is Steve Cooper at Forest, because they basically had to buy a new team at the beginning of the season because they had 10 players on loan who went back to their parent club, and then the rest of the squad was bottom of the championship. So they had to buy it and to get them to gel, and then to become safe with a few games to go. I mean, their run to actually secure safety was superb. That win against Arsenal was great. They win against Brighton. Sorry, Joe.
I mean, when you think though, but if you look at
they gave us.
But if you look at Forest, Rowley, and Doug and Joe, if you look at Forest, their fans were the only fans in the bottom half of the table or in that relegation zone who were the only fans that did not shout for their manager to be sacked, where everybody else was shouting for their managers to go, and a lot of negative vibes around the club. Forest were the only fans that kept going and didn't even want to go sacked. And do you know what? That's probably why they stayed up.
Yeah.
I mean,
I think you've got to give Marinakis a lot of credit, because he could have easily got rid of Steve Cooper. I think there was 2 or 3 occasions he could have easily got rid of them, but stuck by him, and look where it's happened. That they managed to stay in the league, and let's be honest, quite comfortably in the end.
Yeah. I mean, I've got some questions here, which I'm going to come to. I mean, Sefton, he's obviously had to go because I think he's got to work, but he says, a question to the panel. So I'm going to start with Joe and I'll come round. So first question, Joe, to you. It'll be to the panel. Who would you like to come into your club in the summer? And obviously Sefton says, I hope the two and sign Madison. So who would you ideally like in the summer?
Is it too cheap of me to say I'd like to buy Levi Colwill, who's already been at the club this year on loan? Has been absolutely unbelievable for us. And I don't think he gets much of a chance at Chelsea, but Chelsea are going to be stubborn sellers if we do go in for him. Obviously, homegrown talent, that adds a little bit more onto the premium. Chelsea know that our bank balance is healthy, so it's quite a weak position to go into to buy Levi Colwill. We do, of course, have.
I don't think
hopefully not.
Joe, because they haven't got their revenues taken such a hit by not qualifying for the Champions League or any European competition. They're going to have to shift players. Well, the amount they spent, they're going to have to shift players. So I think you're in a stronger position than you think.
Yeah, that's a really good point.
On whether Poch wants him or he just wants to keep the big players.
Yeah, it's a really good point. Of course, this is such unknown territory for me, being a Brighton fan, that we've qualified for European football, that it hasn't quite dawned on me how much of a pull we're going to have to players. And I think Levi Colwill's already given interviews to say he'd like to stay at Brighton. There was an interview with The Athletic where halfway through the interview, he had to be reminded that he was in fact a Chelsea player. So the boy wants to come. Let him leave. We're going to start the hashtag Free Colwill campaign and get into the Seagulls permanently, hopefully. But yeah, I'd love to see Levi stay with us.
Yeah, he is a good centre half. I mean, I saw him last season, bits and pieces when he was at Huddersfield on loan. I know he scored the own goal in the final for Forest, but for Huddersfield against Forest. But he just looks at. a good centre back. And you look at the way Chelsea's been awful at the back this season, you know, and to have let him go, maybe they're looking at that now and thinking, oh, if we'd kept him, you know. But yeah, that's a good shout. And if you do get him, yeah, happy days. You might be able to do a deal with him, I don't know, but hopefully you can. And if that's your ideal sign, then absolutely spot on, you know. So yeah. Doug, what about you on that question from Sefton saying, who would you like in your club in the summer? I know you've got to do it. I know you basically need a whole new midfield, don't you? Because they're all on Zimmer frames now, aren't they?
Yeah, and you're not allowed to say Joe Linton like Didier Harmans keeps telling you to buy. You can't have Joe Linton.
Yeah.
I don't know where these Joe Linton rumours have came from. I have no idea where those have come from. And quite frankly, I'm sick and tired of transfer stuff until the actual window is actually open. The window's not open yet, so you can't sign players until after the 14th of June. Anyway, who do I want come to Liverpool? As I've said, obviously midfielders I think would be definitely one. I've seen today that Kefren Turam seems to be one that's been linked, and I'm a big fan of I'm a big fan of sort of young French players, and he's a very, very good midfielder. I think if Trent moves into midfield, and obviously a right back would be one. Julian Timber is one that's interesting me. He's been linked with a lot of clubs recently. Manchester United, I think we're linked with him as well. But I just think with having like Van Dijk and like Gakpo there, maybe they might have a wee word, just say, you know, come to Liverpool or something like that. So I think midfield, Kefren Turam, and defence, definitely a right back, I would say Julian Timber.
Yeah. Rory, I'm going to ask you, who do you want in at Newcastle?
Oh, there's so many players we've got that we're interested in. James Maddison's a good shout. I like the look of Dominic Szoboszlai from RB Leipzig. We're looking for a CDM. Kefren Turam is a good one. Also, the one that Tony likes, and I do as well, Manu Kone. Again, a good shout there. We need a left back. We need a right-sided centre back. And Musa Diaby as a winger would be good. I'll take any of that lot. Hopefully there'll be 3 or 4 of them.
I mean, there's a few. I mean, my number one target to come into Newcastle is Dominic Szoboszlai, the Hungarian 22-year-old from Leipzig. He's an absolute baller. Kone, I wouldn't mind Kone. As I say, I've actually seen the guy live play as well. You know, at the King Power a couple of months ago, I went to see England under 21s against France. He was absolutely fantastic. He ran the show. Once he went off, France fell apart. That's how good a player he was. I'd like to see him. I'd like to see Maddison come into the club. I think Maddison's a great player still. You know, Leicester's gone down, but that's not down to Maddison. That's down to a lot of it. I think Tielemans had a lot to do with that as well. That would be my pick for players. But there's going to be lots coming in. I mean, the mighty Win says to you, Joe, would you have swapped Cucurella for Levi?
At the time, no. Because obviously Levi hadn't had any Premier League experience, and Cucurella was our player of the season. Given hindsight, absolutely. Absolutely. Cucurella has been woeful for Chelsea, so yeah.
He has been, hasn't he?
The best 60 million we've ever received in our lives. So yeah. Cheers for that, Chelsea. Top guys.
It's a shame in a way though, Chelsea just didn't put him in as like a player plus cash exchange, because that would have worked out really well, wouldn't it?
Absolutely. Yeah. And we would have had Levi permanently now. Whether he was part of the deal at the time, I don't know. Whether there was like a guaranteed loan and then maybe have him back on loan next season. But I think Levi's got to come to us permanently. Obviously, I'm talking from blue and white tinted spectacles, but you know, what would you rather do? Would you rather maybe have another struggling season with Chelsea or play European football with Brighton. I know what I'd do.
Absolutely, he probably doesn't want to play Chelsea because they've got no European football. I mean, Lee set the nail on the head there. He says there'll be a lot of players leaving Chelsea. I predicted this back in January. I said, if Chelsea don't make Europe, how many of them players are going to realistically want to stay? You know, it's and Mason's asking a question as well, Joe, for you. He says, would you take Gyökeres back since Coventry last in the playoff final? Because he was a Brighton player, wasn't he?
He was. Probably not. I think we're well stocked going forwards. I don't think he'd get the chance that he maybe deserves. I think if he goes to a lower end of the table Premier League side, probably better for him. It was when we let him go, it was between him and Aaron Connolly. Aaron Connolly obviously burst onto the scene quite well and had a decent first season and then fell off. How different that could have been with Victor Gyökeres. I've always rated him. I really respect him. I love how he's improved in the Championship, and lower league Premier League clubs will do worse than to sign someone different. So I think Gyökeres is a great option for like a Bournemouth or someone like that.
Yeah.
Before you move on, can I just indulge Joe for 1 second? Do you want to say Brighton in the Europa League again?
Yeah, Brighton and Hove Albion are in the Europa League. It's mad for me because this football club, and I say it to most fans who I speak to that maybe don't know the background of Brighton and Hove Albion Football Club. 26 years ago, we were 1 goal away and 26 minutes away from not existing anymore. And to be where we are now and everything we've been through, we lost our football ground. That was sold to be a retail park. That's still a retail park, which I go to quite often, which hurts my heart. We played football with a running track around it. People use it for their sports days now. There's cracks everywhere. The away end was miles away from the pitch. They couldn't even hear them. It wasn't in Brighton, it was in Hove. I'm joking, it wasn't. And now to be sat in a state-of-the-art stadium with some of the best training facilities going. I mean, I've been lucky enough to go to the Lancing training facilities myself, and it's stunning. It's absolutely beautiful. And to know that that's my football club who were, struggling to stay alive. And now we're talking about European football. It's so special. There's a comment just there. Are you in Brighton? I'm in Littlehampton, which is about 20 miles west of Brighton. So not too far away. It's seriously special times. And when we got Europe, when we confirmed it against Southampton, I was in like the tears were streaming. And when we confirmed Europa League against Man City, that was just party time. And these times are just so special. And that's why I said at the start of the show, just going to soak this all in whilst I can, because I'm not naive. I've seen what's happened to Burnley, Leicester, Wolves, Southampton. They've had their clubs, picks left, right, and centre. I think our owners don't let that happen to us. I think we're in a stronger position than all of those clubs, to be honest. And yeah, it's really exciting times. But if that does happen, then we've lived the best life as a Brighton fan, and we can look back on these memories and really enjoy it. And we're going to enjoy our European tour next season.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, the Mighty Win says, bear in mind that Eddie started Bournemouth in exactly the same situation as Joe describes for Brighton. I mean, yeah, absolutely. Jan says Littlehampton's close to me, 78 miles.
Yeah, the rise of so many football clubs, and that we've got Luton to welcome to the Premier League next season as well. All of these stunning stories, spine-tingling stories that, a lot of fans don't realise what these clubs have been through. And why we say it's so special to be here where we are now. And yeah, it's amazing times, and every fan that is experiencing these journeys, that they know exactly what we're going through right now. So yeah, it's great. It's so good.
Yeah. Well, guys, we're coming to the end of the show now, but it's been a cracking show, the European tour. But obviously, before we do go, I'm going to come to Joe and do you want to let people know where they can find you on your socials, and also give your channel a plug as well, please, Joe?
Yeah, of course. So we're a Brighton Hove Albion YouTube channel that do podcasts and post-match analysis, stuff like that. It's just simply Albion Obsessed across all social medias. If you want to follow the journey of Brighton in Europe, then we're the best place to come. We've got a whole range of hosts from hot-headed people to very level-headed people. We've got some American fans that come on as well, and it's just great fun. I absolutely love the guys that come on with me. And if you want to hear about Brighton, you know where to go.
Yeah, so nip over there and give Joe a subscribe as well. And Doug, like to let people know where they can find you on your socials and your channel as well, mate. It's because it's a great channel what you've got.
Yeah, no, thank you very much for having me. It's been a pleasure
Yeah.
to come on and to meet everyone as well. Yeah, my YouTube channel is called the Dugout Football Channel. It's a basic football channel. I try to sort of cover as much as I can, really. Premier League, SPFL. Going to try and cover most of the leagues next season, hopefully. But things are changing because I do have a little one on the way in September. So got that to look forward to. But yeah, the Dugout Football Channel on YouTube. You can find me also on Twitter, @Nord_1992, Instagram at Douglas.Horn, and Facebook at Douglas James Horn.
There we go. So don't forget to go to the Dugout channel and give him a subscribe as well. Lee says he remembers the days when Darlington used to play at Brighton. Yeah. He says, being great tonight, Tony, Rowley and the lads. Thank you very much indeed, Lee. And Rowley, do you want to let people know where they can find you?
Yeah, I'm on Twitter @Pole67. If you follow me, I'll follow you back.
Thank you, Rowley. You can find me on Twitter at TonyTony31. Also the same name on Twitch as well. On Facebook, it's all Black and White TV. So if you click to join, I'll get you straight into the group there. Obviously, you know where my channel is because we're on the channel now. And obviously, I'm at 602 subscribers. So I reached the 600 mark last night. Like I say, not bad going. But I've only been going like 7 months, and I'm already at 600. So yeah, the channel's on the up, and it's great. But if you have liked what you see, then please smash the like. It does help the channel up with search results, so do smash those likes. Also, if you're brand new to the channel, then please smash the subscribe. Come and join this wonderful community. And also the bell notification tells you when I'm live, have a pre-record, or any upcoming shows. So that's that done. And another comment here. Wayne says, great show, lads. Night, lads. Thank you very much, mate. Cheers. But yeah, I mean, you know, the season's finished now, and we've got England football to look forward to. But after that, we just have to wait until the transfer window opens. And remember, 2 weeks on Thursday, we get the Premier League fixtures out at 9 a.m. So, you know, we'll all be eager to see who we've got first game of the season. You know, I suppose Luton fans will be looking to see who they're getting first game of the season, you know. And, yeah, I mean, away fans go to Luton to have to walk up people's back gardens to see in the washing on the lane and things like that. That's going to be an eye-opener, and I'm sure for the likes of Pep and Klopp and even Eddie Howe, it's going to be a bit of an eye-opener going to Luton Town's ground. But, you know, some of these big players, you know, the likes of Haaland and that, walking into Luton Town's ground, they're going to be in for a big shock because they're used to going into nice super stadiums, but they're going to go into Luton and it's going to be a tight little ground. And, yeah, so lots to look forward to next season in the Premier League, that's for sure. But yeah, thank you to you coming on as well, to Doug and to Joe. It's been an absolute pleasure, and so glad I could get you on. But yeah, it's been brilliant tonight. And yeah, so it's good night from me.
It's good night from
and
me.
Everybody else. Thank you very much, and away the lads.